When Alexei was born to the wealthy Volkov family, his parents, Anna and Vladimir, had high expectations. They were successful, influential, and their lives were steeped in luxury. The birth of their first child was supposed to be a continuation of their legacy, a healthy, thriving heir to inherit their empire. However, what they didn't anticipate was the news that came from the doctors just days after Alexei's birth. Their son had Down syndrome. To Anna and Vladimir, this diagnosis was an insurmountable blow. They had envisioned their family as perfect, an ideal reflection of their success. In their eyes, Alexei's condition shattered this vision. Their dreams of a perfect heir, someone who could take over their businesses and carry on the family name, were suddenly gone. Rather than seeking ways to embrace their son and adapt to the situation, they made a decision they would come to regret for the rest of their lives. They saw Alexei as an embarrassment, something they could neither accept nor fit into their picture-perfect world. They decided to send him to an orphanage, where he would be out of sight and out of mind. At just a few months old, Alexei found himself in a cold, soulless place that was meant to provide care but offered little warmth. It was a place where children were just another number, where their needs were met but their hearts were neglected. For a while, Alexei was nothing more than a forgotten soul in a forgotten corner of the world. However, fate had other plans for him. One day, Igor, the gardener at the Volkov mansion, noticed something that caught his heart. Igor was a simple man, humble and hardworking, but with a heart so full of love and compassion that it could hardly be appreciated by the cold and calculating world around him. He worked in the garden of the Volkov estate, tending to the beautiful flowers and plants that surrounded their grand mansion. His wife, Larissa, was a kind-hearted primary school teacher who had long dreamed of having children but had been unable to have any of their own. When Igor learned about Alexei's fate, he could not ignore the child's plight. He and Larissa had often discussed the possibility of adoption, and when they discovered Alexei's situation, they knew they couldn't just let him be forgotten. So, without hesitation, they decided to take the boy into their care. Unlike the Volkovs, Igor and Larissa didn't see Alexei's condition as something to be hidden or discarded. To them, he was a child in need of love, a child who deserved a chance at a life full of happiness and growth. It didn't matter that Alexei was different, and they accepted him for who he was, and their hearts opened to him with the same love and devotion they would have given their own biological children. Larissa taught Alexei to read and write, patiently guiding him through each letter and word. Igor took him under his wing, showing him how to tend to the plants in the garden, teaching him the beauty of nature, the patience required to nurture something from seed to blossom. As Alexei grew, so did his sense of belonging in the world. With the unconditional love of Igor and Larissa, he began to flourish in ways he could never have imagined in that cold orphanage. As a child, Alexei found solace in drawing. It became his way of expressing the emotions he sometimes struggled to put into words. His art was his voice, his window to the world, a world that often felt too big and overwhelming for him. He drew everything: the flowers in Igor's garden, the people who made him feel safe, his dreams, and his thoughts. Through his art, Alexei found a way to communicate in a language that transcended words. Years passed, and Alexei's talent blossomed. By the time he was a young man, his work had begun to attract attention. He painted portraits, landscapes, and abstract pieces, all of which were infused with raw emotion. Each canvas was a reflection of his life, his journey, and the love that had shaped him. His exhibitions started, drawing large crowds, and his paintings sold out at lightning speed. Alexei had become a celebrated artist, known not just for his talent, but for the depth and authenticity that infused every brushstroke. It was during one of his solo exhibitions that the past came rushing back to him. As he walked through the gallery, he noticed a couple standing in front of one of his paintings. The painting depicted an old garden path lined with blooming roses, a scene Alexei had created as a child during the days when he and Igor spent hours in the garden, sketching and talking. The couple stood transfixed in front of the painting, and Alexei couldn't help but feel a strange pull to them. There was something about them that seemed vaguely familiar, something in their eyes that stirred something deep inside him. Before he could process what was happening, the woman turned to him. "Alexei," she said, her voice trembling, but full of affection. We are your parents. We are the Volkovs. We've been looking for you, and we've seen how successful you've become. We are so proud of you. Please forgive us for everything we did. We made a terrible mistake when we left you. We want to make it right. We want to bring you back." The man beside her, Alexei's biological father, looked at him with regret, his face full of nervous hope. Alexei stood still, his heart racing. Memories flooded his mind, the days in the orphanage, the pain of being abandoned by the people who were supposed to love him unconditionally, the years of struggle with Igor and Larisa, the couple who had never abandoned him, who had fought for him when no one else would. He thought of the lessons they had taught him, that family wasn't defined by blood, but by love and loyalty. He thought of how they had shown him what it meant to be human, to have compassion, to accept oneself without shame. After a long pause, Alexei spoke, his voice calm but resolute. "I don't need your apology," he said. "I don't need you to take me back. I have already found my home. My real parents are Igor and Larisa. They gave me everything I needed in life: love, care, acceptance. I'm not angry with you, but I don't want to change anything. Goodbye." With those words, Alexei turned and walked away, leaving his biological parents standing in the midst of a crowd, their faces filled with shame and regret. He didn't need them. He had found what mattered most: true love, unshakable and unconditional. That evening, as the sun set, Alexei walked through the park where he had once sketched with Igor. The colors of the sky mirrored the warmth of his heart, and he pulled out his phone to call home. "Papa," he asked, his voice full of warmth, "can you and Mama come over for dinner tomorrow? I want to cook for you." The next evening, Alexei prepared the same simple vegetable soup that Larisa had taught him to make when he was a child. It was a humble dish, but it held the essence of everything that mattered. As they sat together at the dinner table, Alexei watched Igor's weathered hands and Larissa's kind eyes. The years had passed, and so much had changed, but one thing remained the same: the love they had for each other. "I met them today," Alexei said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Volkovs." Larisa reached across the table, her hand finding his. "How do you feel about it, son?" Alexei smiled gently, his heart full. "It's okay, Mama. For the first time, I truly understand what you both gave me. Not just a home or an education, but the courage to be myself. They wanted their perfect hair. You wanted me exactly as I am." Igor wiped away a tear, his voice thick with emotion. Let me finish, Papa," Alexei said gently. "Remember how you always told me that the most beautiful Gardens are the ones where every flower is different. That's what you did for me. You gave me roots, but you also gave me wings. That night, as Igor and Larissa left, Alexei sat at his easel and began a new painting. This time, it wasn't of gardens or landscapes, but of a simple meal shared around a table. In the background, through the window, two shadows could be seen walking away, fading into the distance. Alexei knew now what he had always known deep down: the family we're born into doesn't always define us. It's the family we choose, the people who love us for who we are, who see our potential and accept our differences, that shape us into who we truly are. And in his heart, he knew he had everything he needed. When asked about his journey later in life, Alexei would say, "Some people spend their whole lives seeking acceptance from those who abandoned them. I was fortunate enough to learn early that real love doesn't require us to prove our worth. It helps us discover it." His story was a reminder that true family isn't built on bloodlines or titles, but on love, acceptance, and the courage to be ourselves. And sometimes, the most beautiful masterpieces in life are not painted with brushes and paint, but with acts of love, compassion, and understanding. Alexei had found his place in the world, and it was perfect.